Is cents per point the best metric for tracking your point success? Or is there another ratio that gives a better picture of how well you're doing? In today's video, I'm going to cover a few different points metrics that you can track, how to optimize for each one, and how I personally quantify the success of my own points redemptions. And in case you haven't met me, my name is Julia. I am a former actuary / spreadsheet magician turned into a points influencer. So the answer at the end of the video is not going to be the math doesn't matter as long as you enjoyed your trip. You are all beautiful inside. I mean, yes, you are. You are all beautiful inside, but let's get into the math. If your goal with points and miles is to minimize your out-of-pocket costs, like the amount that you're paying in taxes and fees on top of points, here are the programs you'll want to look into. For hotels, the fan favorite is Hyatt because when you book with points, you don't need to pay anything with resort fees or taxes or anything like that. So for example, here's the Park Hyatt St. Kitts, Christoph Harbor, and you can get a 1 king bed or 2 queen bed or even a 1 king bed beachside room, and it'll standardly go for 25,000 points per night. Now, this room for the dates that I picked, which were February 24th through 25th, this would normally cost as a cash rate more than $2,600 per night. It is a very, very expensive hotel in St. Kitts and a very good points redemption. And so the thing here is if you were to say, okay, I want to select and book this room, it's going to be 25,000 points, go ahead and select it and then pretend that you're going to check out all the way. It's just going to be 25,000 points and you can click book my stay. It doesn't require any additional taxes and fees or resort fees or anything else like that. Now keep in mind, a problem a lot of people get into with these really high value redemptions with Hyatt is the restaurants on site are sometimes going to be very expensive because it is a high-end hotel. But if your goal is just to minimize out-of-pocket costs, even booking some of the lower category Hyatt hotels can save you hundreds of dollars over the course of a vacation if you are avoiding paying taxes and fees by using Hyatt points. For flights, you probably won't be able to get $0 out of pocket spend, but you can get very close. And the trick here is to fly on a US-based airline. Our taxes and fees here are only $5.60. So if you are flying on a plane that says on the outside of the plane, American Airlines, United Airlines, Delta, Southwest, whether it is within the United States or flying from the United States to somewhere else, the taxes and fees should just be $5.60 a lot of the time. It's a little bit different when coming back into the US, but we'll cover that in just a bit. So for this example, this is on an American Airlines business class flight. I've flown this exact flight from Dallas over to Incheon, which is in Seoul, South Korea. It is 77.5 thousand American Airlines miles plus $5.60, which is a pretty good deal considering that this flight would normally cost $4,208 if just paid for with money. Here's another example. This is a United flight from Newark over to Johannesburg, South Africa, and it is 80,000 miles for the direct flight on United Polaris from Newark over to Johannesburg. 80,000 miles plus $5.60. So whenever you see those different influencer reels and videos where it's like, I flew here for only $5.60 per person. It's usually $5.60 plus some amount of points, but this is how you can really minimize your out-of-pocket spend. And P.S., this flight on United Polaris is also a fantastic deal because it would normally have a sticker price of $7,883 versus just the 80,000 points plus $5.60 out of pocket. So what if your goal isn't to be as low cost as possible? What if your goal is actually to do the opposite and book as many amazing first-class, super fancy flights as your points will allow, without needing to blow hundreds of thousands of points per flight? That is coming up next. And if you are looking to get more out of your points, we have a free live training coming up about how to maximize your points. Sign up at geobreezetravel.com/webinar. This live training is not recorded and we only offer it a couple of times a year. So if you miss it, you miss out. Again, you can sign up at geobreezetravel.com/webinar. Okay, here's how to maximize the number of aspirational flights on your travel calendar, especially if you have a limited number of points. Now, let's say that your points goals are more qualitative rather than quantitative, and that is that you want the nicest, most luxurious experience available with points, preferably without having to spend hundreds of thousands of points per person one way in first class, but you do want to fly all of the really nice aspirational things that you see on the internet, like this double bed in the sky with Singapore first class. Well, this takes a little bit of research because they don't fly this plane to or from the United States anymore. What you'll want to do is Google something like what routes fly Singapore Suites, and there are a lot of different articles that cover what routes to even search for. So for example, this page by Mainly Miles shows all of the different routes where they operate the A380 with the newer suite. You're looking for the 2017 version of this. And so I have expanded all the ones where you would be wanting to look for this route. You can fly between Singapore and Delhi, Singapore and Frankfurt, Singapore and Hong Kong, Singapore and London, Singapore and Mumbai, Singapore and Shanghai, Singapore and Sydney, or Singapore and Tokyo Narita. And in case you were paying attention, none of those cities are in the United States. So everybody who's like, I've been searching day in and day out, but I just can't find any Singapore Suites availability from San Francisco or Los Angeles or New York, you're not going to. They don't operate that plane. So what you'd want to do is pick another one of these routes where you might be country hopping within South Asia or Southeast Asia. So for example, I pulled this one up on Singapore Airlines website, where it's a flight from Singapore over to Delhi. It's 98,000 points for a 6-hour flight, but it's in Singapore Suites. So if it's a really aspirational bucket list item for you, it might not be too bad of a deal. And you want to make sure that you expand details and confirm that it is the plane model that you want to fly, or else the regular Singapore Airlines first class is perfectly fine. It's just not going to have the double bed that you're expecting. Similarly with Emirates. Everybody's like, I want to fly Emirates first class. I want the one that has the shower in the sky and all of those other features. Not every Emirates first class is going to have the shower in the sky. Once again, you are looking for the A380 with Emirates. So here is a nice article by Go Travel Your Way, and they list out every A380 route with a whole bunch of different airlines. The plane that you're looking for is not always going to be the A380, but they tend to be pretty nice. So if we scroll down to Emirates, they operate a lot of these different routes between Dubai and tons of different countries, or even some of their Fifth Freedom flights. And if you want to find some of the lowest cost ways to experience Emirates first class, I flew them between Cairo and Dubai, which was about 63,000 points per person. But on Seats.aero, you can click on Explore and then Emirates Skywards, and then sort by the lowest first class option. And so here there is a flight route available from Colombo over to Male, so that's Sri Lanka over to the Maldives. But you have to be careful, because if we search for that route here, that's not operated by the A380, it's not going to have a shower, it's also probably a 1-hour flight. But there's this other route that's pretty short. It's between Hong Kong and Bangkok. It's a Fifth Freedom flight with Emirates. It's 45,000 points plus about $100 once you convert from Hong Kong to US. And it's pretty readily available. Better yet, when you actually search for this flight with Emirates, you can see that this flight from Hong Kong to Bangkok is operated by the A380 down here, so it'll confirm what kind of plane you're flying. So if your goal is to get the most luxurious experience and you're a points influencer or a blogger or a YouTube person and you want to have specific video clips or photos of yourself in a shower or something like that, make sure that you are checking what plane model you're looking for and confirm before you book your flight that that is actually the plane that you're going to get on. If you are in the market for a new card to earn more points or status so that you can fly like this, but not sure what card to get, we offer free credit card consultations at geobreezetravel.com/consultations. We will send you personalized recommendations based on your particular goals, budget, and lifestyle. Up next is how to optimize for the total retail value saved. You've probably seen a lot of people, including me, doing trip reports showing the sticker price of a flight or hotel stay if booked with cash. There are 2 ways to maximize for that metric using math. You can either book more quantity of tickets, or more expensive tickets. The next metric that we'll talk about that people often try to maximize is the total retail value saved, or total sticker price that was saved, or how much this would cost if paid for out of cash. There's a lot of different ways to word it, but it's mostly just saying if you took the retail value on Google Flights and on the hotel website for every segment of your trip, how much would that cost overall? And there are two ways to maximize this if this is the metric that you want to play with. So option one is just to book more people on your trip, because that will double or triple or quadruple the retail value of your trip just by having another person on there. But to do that, you need to find enough award space for that many people. So here's the trick that I like to implement for clients of ours who have big families. I'll go to seats.aero, and on the search tab, I'll say USA airports is the origin airports over to Europe or Asia or Middle East or wherever it is they're going. And for this one, I'm putting a pretty broad departure date, December 1st, plus or minus a month, so anything in November or December. And let's say we need 6 people here, flying business or first class. Well, we see a lot of different options where there are at least 6 seats available to fly from Boston to London, Seattle to London, a lot with Virgin Atlantic. They tend to have pretty good award space if you have a large group traveling. This route that you can book from JFK over to Frankfurt with Alaska Airlines for 55,000 points, looks like they have 8 seats available for a lot of days, and this is in business class. JetBlue routes that have a lot of availability on the same plane with TAP Portugal, and I'm going to look at this one with Aeroplan. So this is from Washington, D.C. over to Brussels. It's operated by United. It's 60,000 points per person plus $80 Canadian because you're booking through Air Canada. And it says there's at least 9 seats available on that flight. So when I check this on Air Canada's website, I was able to find that award space from Washington, D.C. over to Brussels. It's 60,000 points plus about $80 Canadian, as seats.aero said. And this is a very good points redemption because when I look up the cost of the flight on Google Flights, it's about $6,000 per person one way. So if you have 6 people traveling, the sticker price of your flight for just the one-way flights over there is already $36,000. And for everybody who's going to be like, oh, you shouldn't price it like that because you're going to fly round trip and whatever, cool. The round trip cost of the flights is close to $14,000. And there is availability to book this for 60,000 points going, 70,000 points back, depending on the dates that you pick. So it's still about 10 cents per point. Again, if you have 6 people traveling and the sticker price for all of those flights would be $13,885 per piece, someone with a large family on social media can easily say, oh, the sticker price value for our trip was $83,000. If you don't have a large family, it's going to be much easier for you to just find very aspirational award flights that would normally have a high sticker price anyway. One of those, once again, is with Emirates First Class, and the route that I'm going to highlight here is from Chicago over to Dubai. It's a very high sticker price in points. It's 163.5 thousand points per person one way, and the taxes and fees are also steep. It's $840 US. But there is a lot of availability over the next few months if you want to fly this, especially if you're a solo traveler, then the world is your oyster. This flight would normally retail for $15,000 or more. And for those of you who are remembering what I was saying before about the A380, I know that you're eyeing this and being like, oh, that's a Boeing 777. It doesn't even have a shower. Is it worth it? Maybe. So to confuse everybody further into the nuances of plane models, there is something called the Emirates Game Changer. It's the latest in first class innovation. I think astronauts developed the technology for this seat. 1 Mile at a Time has a great article reviewing all of it. That's what I'm scrolling through right now. Bathroom's huge. They've got 6 seats available for booking first class. You have a fully enclosed pod, and they currently operate just a few routes. This operates between Dubai and Brussels, Chicago, Geneva, Kuwait, London, Riyadh, Tokyo, and Zurich. So they added Chicago as of late last year. So if you want to fly the Emirates Game Changer, position yourself over to Chicago, spend 163.5 thousand points, plus $840 per person one way. Tell everybody that you booked a $15,000 flight and got 8.7 cents per point. If you are looking to get more out of your points, please let me know. Click that like button, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel for even more points and miles tips every week. Up next is how to optimize for cents per point when it comes to hotel stays and flights. This is the most common metric that points people talk about. And here's what it would take to get something like a crazy 60 cent per point redemption. Probably the most common metric that people track when it comes to points and miles is cents per point, which is the value that you get per point when you compare against retail value. And then I calculate this as the sticker price or retail value of your flight or hotel, minus any statement credits that you got, minus the cash rate that you had to pay out of pocket for taxes and fees. And you take all of that quantity divided by the points that you paid. So for a lot of our clients, we usually average about 5 to 6 cents per point. And then if you're doing this on your own and you're a beginner who just started doing points tutorials, I would say anything over 2 cents per point is pretty good. But if you are really looking to maximize your cents per point, here are a couple of ideas. I've mentioned this trick on the YouTube channel before, but I really like the suite upgrade rates for 9,000 points with Hyatt. What you do is search for the hotel stay that you want with Hyatt, and then you scroll down, make sure you've highlighted use points, and then go over to suites. Then you find the most expensive suite that's currently available, that's a premium suite. You click on more rates and you see if they have this upgrade premium suite option. This will allow you to pay some kind of base rate plus 9,000 points for a premium suite. So you don't get the entire thing for free, like if you're trying to minimize your out-of-pocket cost, but oftentimes you do get a lot more value out of each point. Because for this Park Executive Suite in the Park Hyatt Bangkok, the standard rate would be $1,260. The member rate would be $1,149 for one night. So let's say that we're comparing against the member rate, which is what I would be paying otherwise, because I am not going to be doing an advance purchase for more than $1,000 with no cancellation policy. If we calculate the cents per point, which would be $1,149 minus the $420 that you would pay out of pocket, and then you take that whole thing divided by the 9,000 points you'd need to pay, that is a cents per point valuation of 8.1 cents per point, which is doing pretty good, and that's how I stretch out a lot of my Hyatt points. For flights, there's a whole bunch of different combinations for how you can maximize cents per point. Here's an example of one of the highest valuations we were able to do. So one time we were flying back from London to Las Vegas. It was a one-way thing because our route took us all over Egypt and the Middle East before flying back, using this as our last leg. And the prices have actually gone down quite a bit on this route for points where you can book London to Las Vegas in Virgin Atlantic upper class for 41,000 points, plus about 500 Great Britain pounds. And that's per person one way. And 40,000 points is already really good for Europe to North America, especially if you're going into a smaller airport like Las Vegas and you don't have to worry about positioning flights when you get home. It's fantastic. But to make this even better, that would normally be a $13,000 retail value when I looked this up on Google Flights. So again, we were flying this one way because it was at the end of a very complicated itinerary, but instead of paying $13,171, you could pay 41,000 points plus $621. And to put the cherry on top of this, if you can line it up with a transfer bonus, that makes it even better. We were able to line this up with the Bilt transfer bonus over to Virgin Atlantic. Bilt has the highest value transfer bonuses out of anyone in the industry. I don't think anybody else really comes close, where they can do 75%, 100%, up to 150% bonus on rent day for specific airlines with special promotion periods. So if you want to save your Bilt points for when they're running one of these promos, it can help you get so much value out of your points. Because let's say that it's a $13,000 flight and then you have to pay $621 in taxes and fees plus 41,000 points. That is already a 30 cent per point redemption, which is insane. But it gets even crazier because maybe you don't need to spend 41,000 points. Maybe you have a 100% transfer bonus, which means you only need to transfer over half that many points. So a little more than 20,000 points from Bilt to Virgin Atlantic to fly this $13,000 flight. That means you're getting like 61. cents per point. This is normally unheard of. A lot of stars would need to align for you to be able to do this. You would need to find saver space on Virgin Atlantic for the route that you want on the date that you want to fly back. It would have to line up with a transfer bonus. But if all of the stars align and do something like this, that is how you can mic drop and get crazy value out of your points and miles. Our last walkthrough covers what ratios I actually track for my own points trips. If you are interested in leveling up your points and miles game and getting even more free trips and upgrades, we have a couple of options for you. The first one is the GeoBreeze Travel Patreon, which you can join starting at just $5 per month through patreon.com/geobreezetravel. Every month, we prepare personalized step-by-step tutorials for the exact routes that our members request. We also provide open forum group coaching where you can ask any questions that you have about points, miles, and credit cards in general. And we talk through some of the tips and tricks that I don't really mention on social media. And if you are looking to get even more free travel with points, and you are a business owner or individual who spends more than $100,000 per year on expenses, we typically save our clients somewhere between $30,000 and $60,000 in travel in the first 6 to 12 months of working with our one-on-one client services. If that sounds like something that you would be interested in, book a free intro chat with us at geobreezetravel.com/intro call to learn more. Okay, let's talk about what metrics I personally track. All right, so which of these metrics do I pay most attention to for myself? A lot of these I track just for transparency and because it's a common language that people speak in the points world. For example, cents per point, I'm happy with anything that's really over 6 cents per point on average for a trip. This one did very well just because of the Cathay Pacific first class, which got 14 cents per point because it has such an expensive retail value. But you can see I got 2.5 cents per point on my Hyatt Regency in Hong Kong, 3.5 cents per point at my hotel in Korea, and I'm perfectly happy with that. Minimum of 2 cents per point. If it hits 5 or 6 cents per point for the entire trip, I'm happy with that. For the total retail value of everything, I think that's good just to be able to say, here's the caliber of trips that we're doing. But as we've mentioned many times on the channel before, sometimes the sticker price is inflated just because I live in Las Vegas, and if I can find a convenient flight that avoids positioning flights, it's going to have a really high sticker price, it's going to have a very high retail value, pretty good cents per point if it's a good deal. Doesn't necessarily mean it's the most quality of airline products, but I'm not going to knock the value that I get out of the convenience of having a flight that goes straight into Las Vegas. I don't try to minimize the out-of-pocket costs. I think when people obsess over paying the least taxes and fees and trying to get as much stuff, quote, for free as possible, they miss out on a lot of different opportunities where it might be such a better flight, better value for your points, better experience, better everything, but the taxes and fees might be a couple $100s more. I don't want to bar myself from that experience just because of the taxes and fees. But if you're in a position where you're like, dude, I just need to get an economy flight home for the holidays for as close to $0 as possible, I'm going to take Southwest and I'm going to pay $5.60 in taxes and fees. That's fantastic. You do you. I personally don't like to travel that way, so I don't pay too much attention to the total out-of-pocket. But what I do pay attention to is the ratio of out-of-pocket costs versus the retail value of the entire trip. And that's what this metric down here shows. So for this latest trip that I took to Korea and Hong Kong, it's saying that the ratio between my out-of-pocket cost versus the sticker price of the trip is about 6%. I like to keep this under 10 for myself. If you're just starting out, I would say aim for this ratio to be under 20. And that means you are getting 80% off of the sticker price compared to what you actually had to pay out of pocket, plus whatever your points cost as well. Said another way, your points allow you to stretch your travel budget of what you already had planned to spend on trips. You can extend that to 5 times as much as you had planned, or 10 times as much as you had planned. So that's kind of how I gauge the success of my trips for myself, is a little bit of cents per point, a little bit on the sticker value of all of this, because I am trying to level up and do more first class flights instead of just business class when the stars align and I find award availability. But mostly the point of this entire game and of points is to allow you to stretch your travel to more than you would be able to do without points. And I know that that ratio would become infinity if your cash paid were 0. But again, that's why I like for it to be above 0. I usually aim for about 10 because I think that's a pretty respectable ratio between out-of-pocket costs versus the sticker price of all of the flights and hotels. So let me know what you thought of this video and which metrics you pay most attention to, or if you're seeing any of the math on my spreadsheet that's just wrong, let me know that in the comments as well. I hope you found those tutorials useful. Let me know in the comments what metrics you track when it comes to points and miles, or which ones you want to start tracking. And if you are trying to get more out of your points, I think you will enjoy this video next.